Hi guys, and welcome back to Lasting Peace. I want to talk to you again about spiritual maturity. I think that today's video is going to be a good bridge between what we've talked about a lot regarding eating disorders and addictions following my book, The Predatory Lies of Anorexia, and what we're moving toward discussing more spiritual maturity in hopes to know quite soon about the publication of my upcoming Bible study. But I was really blessed today to sit in church under Mike Burnett at Life Point Church in Clarksville, Tennessee, and hear his teaching today on 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14. And they're verses that you and I have probably read 100 times, but I'd never seen them in this context, and he really drew out some points and some components of spiritual maturity, and I thought I'd share those with you today. One thing he said, well, first let me read you the verse. This is 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14. It says, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong, let all that you do be done in love." One of the first things he said is part of maturity is simply moving on. And that ties in with the next comment, but just think about it. Moving on, we think about maturity as we age. I'm willing to bet you don't act, if you're 15, the same way you did when you were 5. If you're 30, the same way you did when you were 22. Even physically, maturity is part of moving on, leaving something behind. And then he pointed out, he said, addictions, think of your eating disorder if that's the position that you're in, are often a result of some 14-year-old bad choice. And I thought, that's interesting. It's very true of me. My eating disorder, however long it lasted in my life, was the ongoing result of bad choices I made when, believe it or not, I was 14. But however old you were, or however many years ago, addictions or things that keep us stuck and mired in immature behaviors are often results of decisions we made many years ago. But we're living repeatedly, limping along in those same old habits, which is obviously the opposite of maturity. We're not moving on. We're not growing and changing and leaving behind those things that we chose in the past. And that's the beauty of life and of maturing in the way God created us. We are designed to leave things behind, to grow past them. So just because you made a poor decision at age 14 doesn't mean you have to live with the side effects of it at 34. And the last thing that I wanted to point out is at the end, the very last verse I read says, "Let all that you do be done in love." And that seems simple enough and pretty typical of what you read throughout Scripture. But when you narrow that down, when you boil it down to its components, he says, everything matters. Think about it. Everything you do matters, whether you're eating or sleeping or walking or texting or driving or walking the dog or reading or drinking or talking or sitting and being silent or watching the birds. Everything matters. Everything we do in this life is an act of either worship or defiance against God. What is your life saying? Are you speaking to people in such a way that God is glorified? Because it matters. Are you fixing dinner in such a way that God is glorified? Because it matters. Think about it. Think about tomorrow as you go through your day, more than just the cliche, what would Jesus do? Think about, this matters. How does it glorify God? How does this state that I am growing on in Him and I'm maturing and leaving behind those past decisions and not allowing them to haunt me? Because there's the other verse, the old is gone, the new has come. And the verse in Jeremiah, behold, I am doing a new thing. That's what God is all about. Leave the past behind. Move on toward maturity. And like Paul says, act like men. Or as the case may be, act like women. Grow up. Be mature. And remember that everything matters. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week.